Greetings. In this video we're going to have a quick look at taking a rather busy Photoshop document and exporting elements out, and for this technique we're going to specifically use layer comps. Now I actually don't see too many people using layer comps either professionally or even as amateurs, and I think they're really important to understand, and they're very handy, and I've used them for a big range of things for client work, especially if you've got a lot of folders that gets pretty messy, and even if you do put them into subfolders and label everything, if you need variations sent out, this is definitely going to help. So I'm going to show you how to do this. I have obviously a whole lot of variations in here, lots of different folders, and one of the things I see so often is people going, okay, well here's a variation, and this variation, I want to see it with this part or without that part. Let's try, some major differences. And your client or yourself may want to see all of these variations sent out, and it can be a really daunting thing. So one of the things that I see people doing is sometimes getting the image that they want to send and going File and Export, and could go something like Export Safe for Web, which is not a terrible way to export out. And you've got a preview window here which you can sort of zoom in and out with, and you can select JPEG or GIF or PNG or whatever it is, and you can also choose your settings, and it'll actually give you the size of your image out there. Now remember, when you are emailing your clients, you don't want to send them huge documents. A lot of companies will have firewalls, and a lot of emails will stop at about 5 megs, so you've got to keep your file sizes down. I'm going to step out of this. Other options are File, Save, Save As, and same thing again, you can send the stuff out, JPEGs right there. And what you really don't want to do is send your client a layered Photoshop document. It's very daunting for them to try and figure it out. You're probably struggling with yourself trying to figure out which layers you want to use, and don't give your client that option as well. So that way they can open it if they don't have Photoshop, which most people don't. So let's step out of there as well. Okay, so let's have a look at layer comps. I'm going to go to Window and open up layer comps. It's done alphabetically. There it is there. Now I've actually preset some in here, so I'm actually going to shift and delete those so I can run through the process again. And what you'll notice is, if we look at our layers panel here, it's fairly similar. If we drop that down, you can see, okay, layer comps. Now there are no layer comps at the moment. There was previously, I've just deleted them. And all layer comps do will remember, as you create them, will remember which layers are turned on, which layers are turned off, and you also have some other options as well. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to say, okay, well I've done some variations in here. I've kind of labeled them. I've got a master copy, I've got a young copy, and I've got an old copy, and even right now, even though I've put these into folders, it is still fairly complicated, and I've also got this weirdy one over there. So let's package this up nicely. So I'm going to start off, okay, where's my master copy? There he is. There's a shoulder pad that I've extended on there, so I want that incorporated in there. Great. So I like that one, so I'm going to go to this new layer comp, create new layer comp icon here, and I can give it a name, and I can call this as is, or whatever your preference is for naming conventions. You'll notice it says apply to layers, visibility, position, and appearance. Now appearance is affected by stuff like our layer styles and stuff like that up here. You can also add a comment if need be. So this is the original as an example. Now you don't have to fill all this out. As default, it usually comes with just visibility. I like turning these on just in case, so I don't see the harm. And I'm going to hit OK. And there it is there, as is, and here's my little note underneath, so it's pretty good for that. Okay, great. What next? Well, let's go to my young copy. I've got the shoulder thing there. Great. New layer comp. Young. I can put a comment, but I'm going to leave that. There he goes there. Cool. What else? Well, let's turn that off. Let's see if I can figure the old one. The old one is there. Yeah, I want to have that pad there. New layer comp. Let's call it old. Great. Done. Let's turn that off. I've got the freaky one there. And I'm going to call this freak. Great. And what we can do in our layer comps now is we can actually click through these and we can go through them directly. Now, the way that this varies from your layers is you can change all of these. You can say to yourself, okay, well, I want to make a new layer comp and it's going to have maybe some elements from the previous one. I'm going to remove that shoulder, for example, and you may want to add another layer to this and go write some text on there as well. So I'm just going to throw some text in there. He says there's no text appear. And I'll just expand that up and make it something scary. Oh, very effective. So new layer there. I've got various other layers turned off. I can turn whatever layers on or off I want and create a new layer comp and call it what you will. I'm going to call this question mark and hit OK. And that will remember which layers are turned on and which ones are turned off. And as we end up with very complicated documents, you may forget which layers you have turned on and which ones have turned off. You could create all sorts of weird mishaps, and our layer comps will actually remember what we saved at that particular point. So I can go, well, I really like the as is one. Bang, there it is. Young one, old one, freak one, and here's the other previous one we saved before. Now, if we change any of this, if we add any other layers, for example, if I create a new layer, it's the last thing I actually need is another layer, but and let's just say I create, just use a marquee selection tool and drop a gradient in there or something, and I go, okay, well, I definitely need that for whatever reason, and I want to add it to this one that I've created here. Well, all I need to do is hit the refresh button. This will update layer comp and it will now remember that that one is there. Great. Don't want to remove it, hide it again, hit the refresh button. So the layer comps will just remember which layers are where, which ones are turned on, which ones are turned off. Now, another cool thing that I'm going to show you is that layer comps will also remember the position of objects. So I could do something out of the ordinary and go, well, I want this one like so, and I'm going to grab the young version here that I've created, young copy, and I'm going to move that across to the left. Now his shoulder's not connected, but put him to the right over there. Great. Let's rename this one, create a new one, young right, hit OK, and there it is there. Now if I switch between these two, you can see wherever I've saved it, it will remember it. Now layer comps work by moving layers. They don't create new layers, they just say, okay, that layer's over here, at that point that layer's over here. One of the things you do need to be careful of is transforming and rotating. So while it will remember its position, if you go a little bit crazy with this and go, you know, I'm going to grab this image and scale and rotate, great, hit refresh, and now I go to the young version, you'll see it's also rotated in that because it's working off that layer. So if I transform or do anything to that layer, it will remember it. Now that's not always a bad thing. If you're doing a large project that may include something that you could put in as a placeholder, and your client might say, you know, that's great, I don't want that particular color, you can jump in later and go, you know, right, we'll change that out, and it will remember that in whichever area that thing is placed in there. So there's quite a big a lot of possibilities for that to change things out, and it will change in multiple configurations. So you can do lots of variations for a client and cycle through them, and you won't waste your time clicking and turning layers on and off and all that kind of stuff. So I probably will try and put a video up of other applications for this, particularly using this in animatics and storyboards. But for now, I'm going to leave that here, but please do check out the next video on how to export layer comps. It's a very, very important one. It's one thing to just organize them, it's the other thing to actually send them out.